Hi, I'm Paul Warren.
And I'm Ryan Klein.
And this is another episode of SEO is Dead and Other Lies. Ryan, how are you doing on this wonderful morning?
It is a wonderful morning because it's sunny here, which is great. It's been a week since that happened, and you've been really living it up for, I don't know, months, even years down in Florida, right?
Yeah, but this is when it's really paying off. You know, most of the time it sucks here. Crazy stuff is always happening. Someone's face is getting eaten off. It's, 110 degrees and it's really humid. But now who's laughing? It's me, because it's 84 degrees and it's snowing in Texas. And I don't even have power.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned all the terrible things of Florida in like perfect order, because like in your face eating off is probably worse than 110 degree weather.
Yeah, that was the order. But today's a great day because we have a guest.
We do.
Awesome, because then we don't have to come up with the content ourselves.
That is definitely the case. So be a pleasure of introducing Mr. Andy Cabasso. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be, you're the owner of Postaga. I can see here a better way of building links, which is what is always on SEO's mind. And as we know, there are hundreds of ways of doing it, but we're going to narrow down, a few things that have been working the most for you today, and talk about some really interesting approaches that Paul and myself never really think about that often. So before we get into that, love to hear some of your background.
Sure. So, many years ago, I actually went to law school and was a lawyer for a little bit. And then while I was in law school, I realized that every law firm that I was applying to work at had a terrible website, which was fun. And I was like, I could do better than this. And so what started out as a side hustle of digital marketing for law firms ended up becoming a career switch. And I started and grew my own digital agency focusing on legal. We started, grew, and then eventually sold that agency to another company in the legal space. And today I run a company called Postaga that was partially inspired by my experience as a digital agency, looking for a way to more easily streamline doing link building and digital PR outreach.
If you don't mind me asking, when did you get started with your previous digital agency, and when did you sell?
Yeah, so
the timeline.
So the timeline. I started doing like my digital. I started like the digital agency around 2012, 2013, and we grew it and sold it in actually 3 years. So we sold it in 2016.
Nice, good for you. Just when things started getting interesting in the legal space. I'm just joking. It's overly saturated. You got to have a good time.
You might be a really good authority on this, and I know we get questions from people in our audience, and I just generally have this question. So how do you value a link monetarily? Like, what is your process for that?
So I don't know that I am the best person to do that, because I don't actually value links monetarily. Like when I'm like evaluating links and opportunities and stuff like that, I really just care about context, relevance, and like domain ranking and authority. But I'm not like generally super focused on dollar values or anything like that.
All right, but so like if you're purchasing links, right, or paying for like a service for it, mm-hmm. Are you more of like an hourly basis, and like what you get during is what you get, or like is it like tiered?
Sure. So I'm going to probably upset some people, but like in general, I take a very healthy dose of skepticism around services that involve paying for links with certain tiers and things like that, just because the very vast majority of them are bad quality, and the stuff that a lot of consumers are looking for when they are purchasing links, they are not very discerning. They're just like, all right, so this is a DA50 link, therefore it's worth more. I should pay more for it, and I don't like that. There are I gotta say, many very good link building services out there where that's what they specialize in. Like they don't call themselves SEO agencies because they very specifically focus on link building, and they do it right. They have very strong networks, and they have very good opportunities for placing relevant contextual links, and they have good business models for charging what they believe is appropriate for that. But yeah, like the very vast majority of it,
it's just garbage, right?
It's garbage.
So that's actually, I think, like an excellent answer, and something like Ryan and I talk about all the time. Is that I think relevancy is like, first of all, domain authority is great, but like you can get like a Web 2.0 that doesn't have any like page authority, right? So like ultimately what it is it's like whatever the page authority is, which isn't really a number anymore, right? Which but still exists, is the thing that's really going to like influence like the algorithm. And then relevancy got added onto that, and I think that's like what kind of knocked out a lot of like the guest posting back in the day in like 2013, when it was like becoming, you were getting legal links from like a yoga website or whatever, right? It's just like anywhere you could get something, like people were getting in and they went overboard with it.
Right. And the people that I've seen that are having the most success, the people who are very much like building relationships with other websites and building relationships with other people who are doing the same strategies as them, like link insertions or niche edits or guest posts or things like that. They spend the time to find really relevant opportunities and only have guest posts or niche edits on websites that are actually relevant. And so it's a bit more work that goes into it than it was back in the day, but it ends up being more successful. It's real, and it gets better results.
So since being in the legal space, I imagine maps, right, is probably the number one driver, for a lot of law firms. Do you find yourself focusing on like local link building? So local link building, I guess legal in general is a very tough space. That's we could talk all day about like legal link building, in part because like if I have a law firm website and my practice is all around, let's say, either DUI or personal injury, the other websites that I would want links from that are like sharing repositories of information about my topics, they're legal directory websites that I really don't want links from, because those are all everyone has them.
Everyone has them, and they're no follow links, and they're going to try and then sell you on their service and their proprietary platform and all of that, which is no good. But it's either that or competitors. Those are the only people who are like seemingly writing content that's related to like your topic area. So that can be a huge challenge. So local link building is definitely like the area that I try and encourage like law firms to focus on. So like, for example, if we're doing like outreach, like I would suggest like things like local associations, local memberships, and things like that. I know that some people like to do link building with like scholarships, for example, and awards in the community and things like that, and that helps out as well. But other than that, kind of things like maybe forming partnerships or affiliations with other organizations. So law firms, for example, like to get referrals from other relevant businesses. So if I do estate planning law, I have partnerships with CPAs or financial planners who can send business my way, and I can refer cases their way. If I can get a link to or a feature or just anything on that firm's website as well, that can be another bonus for me there. But it does take some effort to do that,
So always look at those internal partnerships you already have.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? See what you can take advantage of from that.
Yeah. Going back to what you're saying about like the DA being like a metric, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's like, if it's like 50 and that's the only thing you're looking at, it's like, really, who cares if the anchor text isn't relevant, if the website doesn't make sense, if the outbound links are in the thousands, tens of thousands, millions. It just, as you add more and more variables, it just kind of like mitigates the value very, very quickly. So right. Yeah, we try not to use that metric as end all be all. That's just it's just like the shiny thing that gets you to look at it.
Right. And if you're in this space, like you see that there are so many people who like treat every link like it's a commodity, like the actual domain itself is irrelevant. It's just that DA number, and that's, for me at least, like a huge red flag right away, because I don't know about you, but like, I get hit up on LinkedIn all the time or Facebook all the time about people like, hey, I've got these links and here's my price list and it's a menu, and it's like, okay.
I forward that to my SEO team constantly. So, so the interesting thing with link building, like based off where we're at now, is that like you're talking about competition. Anyone can go on. They can go on SEMrush, Ahrefs. They can go on these tools. They can look at the backlink portfolio of competition. Be like, they're authoritative. They're ranking for stuff. I need these links. Sure, that's like the baseline. And then in really competitive spaces, legal is a perfect example. People are constantly looking at each other's portfolios, and they're like, they have scholarships. I have to do scholarships. They have a Forbes link. I have to do a Forbes link. And then what happens is it's just like this like leapfrogging, and they're just like, and it starts getting expensive. Like I work with people in competitive markets like New York, Houston, LA, and they're just like, oh crap, that link costs like $1,000. And it's like, yeah, but I want to buy it. And it gets like to the point where people are really shelling out like real cash, but they have the access. So we're getting to a point where it's like you're saying, relationships, kind of the intangibles. We have to like do things where it's like your competition can't just buy a link anymore, right? So we're talking about possibly PR relationships, possibly outreach. We may or may not get there, but one of the big things are the things that no one can just replicate.
Right.
Yeah. And and I don't know if you want to segue into the summits, or we can talk about something that kind of led you to come up with that.
Yeah, like that's good. So there's, I guess, a few kind of steps there. Like exactly what you're saying about like doing stuff that other people can't replicate. So like they're creating content, I'm creating content. Maybe they're doing something like skyscraper technique, and I'm doing skyscraper technique, and we're just going after each other's links, or trying to find other sites that can link to us that are linking to our competitors, and back and forth, and this stalemate détente of links going back and forth. So one thing that I like found helpful, which takes a little bit more effort, is kind of like digital PR, getting other websites to to mention you, review you, or feature you in some way that is more than just reaching out to be like, hey, can you link to our content or something like that, and doing something like that. So like one example that I've seen is like podcast outreach, and like how I get in touch. I'm doing this myself. I reach out to podcasts to have me on as a guest. I have relevant experience to talk about related to the topics, and then I can get a backlink, and I'll get a mention, and people listening. Also, I have this now.
Hey, wait a second. You're not just doing this for the backlink, are you, Andy?
Paul, I am here for the friendship first.
All right, that's what we thought, because we were talking about relationship building, right? So we expect that you're going to be on many, many times.
Yeah, like amount of effort going into this. How many links do you expect at the end of this? Or it depends
how much should we charge for these links? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. But yeah, that's right. Like it is also easier to write a check to someone or give them your credit card to pay for a link, sure. But you can get not only like links, but also in front of a new relevant audience for you, which can be a good opportunity. And so things like reaching out for podcasts. I'm also a proponent of guest posts, but in a relevant context, not just for like wherever I can get a guest post, but guest posting on relevant websites. So all right, you'll get a backlink, but also hopefully like getting access to that audience will also be helpful for you. So there's a bit more work to it, but it can, I think, be more beneficial if as opposed to just being focused on that link itself.
Yeah, makes sense.
Beyond that, I guess we're talking about virtual summits. We were talking about that earlier. Virtual summits are a unique thing and also especially relevant now, but it can be a great kind of thing to put together to build that that one can help you increase your audience. Two, you can get links to it, and so improve your link profile there, and also could help you build more partnerships, other relationships, and if you want, also possibly make you some money. That's not bad either. So like what virtual summits are, if you're not really familiar, it's basically summary is it's an online webinar that is more than one session and possibly more than one day. And so I've run virtual summits that were like over 2 days and like 15 different sessions over those 2 days. And I had like many speakers in the legal industry, and basically like what I'd be doing putting it together is I'm trying to have content that's relevant for my audience, but also I'm trying to increase my audience size. So my speakers are promoting the event to their audiences as well, and they're sharing it, they're talking about it, they're posting it. And that's getting me more press and publicity, and other relevant like legal industry blogs that I've been wanting to get coverage from are starting to cover us and get us links as well. And that's like, having this event is a reason for someone in the press with a good domain authority to write an article about you, not just a single link somewhere.
Sure. I mean, so Ryan and I talk about this, how as like SEOs, you're always trying to get links, and like so much stuff is done that like the whole, like the idea where it came from was like to get links. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like Ryan and I had this idea to start like a 5K just so we could get like links from like local businesses. Like,
but then you're going to have to run a 5K.
We weren't. No, we were just going to set it up and like do the whole groundwork, just so we could get like links on other websites, and then redirected it at one point to like what we wanted. But people were like, "Oh man, is nothing just done for normal reasons?" Like, pretty much no. Like all the scholarships that you've seen for the last like 13 years.
Oh my gosh,
we're just trying to get links.
That was a real disheartening moment when I learned about like scholarship backlink kind of things. And like there are companies out there that you can pay that will offer scholarships on your behalf and stuff like that. And that was like, going to Disney and seeing the person in the Mickey costume take off the hat.
Oh, well, you know what?
Light up a cigarette.
Positive thing for the world. Okay, it does good. That's all I have to say about it.
For the record, for the 5K, you don't have to run. You can walk briskly.
I think we came really close to actually doing this though. Like I was working at a company that did rehab, like drug rehab, and we were like, can I do this? Can I make like a 5K actually happen just for the links?
I like that. Like, I like this idea that maybe that you guys are putting yourselves through physical trauma for links. Like, all right, we got to run this 5K now because we did organize it, and we need some people to show up so our client feels that this wasn't frivolous.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to pay people to show up. I had a good budget, so just whatever you got to do.
Maybe it correlates with like the effort. So Iron Man, I'd assume that you get like a lot of links, but you might die. That could be one of those things.
So go ahead.
Good. This is what happens when I can't see what you're doing, but I'll continue. So, I love that idea of the virtual summit. I would imagine that asking people to be a part of it and being collaborative, you're not going to get too much resistance. People are very, very much like appreciative and say,
it's super easy because I had some summits where like I was like hopeful that these people would be able to speak, and like we weren't charging anything for admission. We just wanted as big an audience as possible. And my pitch to the speakers was, you don't have to travel anywhere, and you will get access to this audience, and you can recycle any as long as it's like relevant. Like, let's talk about this ahead of time, but you can use a session that you've given before, and you can use that same material, and we can use that for this audience because, I mean, chances are they haven't seen everything that you've presented. And so easy for them to say yes. And provided I can get them I can have a lot of good assets that I can give to them, that they can, like in collateral, they can share with their audiences. It's just a win-win.
So I have a question about maybe on the technical side. What kind of tools do you use for like your outreach? So back in the day, I think I used Raven tools, which you can kind of set up a lot of templates and have like a lot of people using sort of one account. Do you use something similar now?
So I guess shameless plug. So I built a Postaga specifically for outreach because, well, what I was seeing was there's so many disparate tools out there. There are tools for prospecting, there are tools for finding contact, there's tools for verifying emails once you found them, and then there are CRMs out there for sending emails and follow-ups and templates with merge fields and all that stuff. And so the software that I built basically streamlines and automates that kind of all in one. So we help prospect. We have an integration now also with Ahrefs. So if you're doing like skyscraper technique, we can automate and streamline a bunch of that. So instead of like finding one website that has 100 backlinks, we can grab multiple websites that have, whether it's one backlink or 1,000 backlinks or however big their profile is, you can target multiple websites at once, grab their backlink profiles, find the contact people at those websites, get their email addresses, verify their email addresses, and then build and send them targeted personalized emails related to that campaign. That's just one example. But basically the workflow is our platform helps you prospect to find relevant websites to reach out to, then finds and verifies the contacts, and then builds and sends the emails to them.
Nice. To our listeners, I wasn't asking that as a plug. I really didn't know that. So that sounds like a really cool tool that you put together. So I definitely think I'll try and check it out at some point. Cool.
I think our listeners know, maybe not Paul, but me personally, I've never been the biggest proponent of outreach. Not because I don't think it doesn't work. It clearly works, but it's just a whole philosophy. I'd much rather be in control of the assets I'm able to link from, as opposed to having a strategy or authority contingent on the decisions of webmasters and random people that own websites. One thing I didn't mention is I have done sort of outreach, but it may look a little bit different from maybe what we're discussing here. So, our listeners probably for the most part look at outreach as just like, hey, I came across your website and I think that you might find this page or blog relevant. I know that's not what you do, but that's like the way that it might be perceived a lot. The one thing that I've done, and I'm not sure if you've done it similar to this, but when it comes to like, I guess the content I do and maybe like my email lists, I'm never doing like a hard pitch or a sale. I'm really kind of informing people and putting stuff in front of them, let them make their own decision kind of deal. So the one thing that I've done, and it worked, probably I have to check how much it worked. I know it worked enough for me to even bring it up, but basically like getting in front of people and telling them that they made a list or something and show them an asset. And it's just like, hey, listen, like you made a list of like my 10 favorite blogs and I just wanted to show you it. And then it's just the page and I don't say anything. That's it. And I let them do what they want with it. And sometimes they actually do link to that kind of asset on their own.
Yeah, that is a great strategy. We actually have in our platform, I don't mean to be plugging, but like you kind of spoke right to something that we do as well. Like we like one of our outreach campaign types pulls all of the outbound links from your content, so you can reach out to those people with your pitch or even your not pitch of, hey, just want to let you know you made this article that we wrote, and like an article, like an award article or a top something article, that is that nice ego bait that gets people excited.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not kind of trying to convince them or pitch them to take action, but you do also make the page like kind of more formal, and it's not just like kind of a haphazard, like, oh, whatever plug. It's like, it's something that looks like my official picks, the top 10 of 2020, 2021. So it's like, this is formal at least.
Right.
So it's, it's something maybe prestigious enough for me to get, goosebumps about and maybe like link to it.
Well, so you also mentioned one thing that I was thinking about. You said that like with outreach, you end up like just you're concerned that like there's no control, that you end up like your efforts are reaching out to these websites and hoping that they link to you. So one thing that I've seen that like over time, as you are reaching out to different websites, you build relationships, you build a network, and there are like people that you could call on to say like, hey, I have this content. I think it would be good if you could like link to it in this article or something like that, in this anchor text, in this context. And they're like, there's a reciprocal opportunity there where they'll be like, oh yeah, sure, I can link to that for you, no problem. Can you do you know anywhere I could get a link for this content from? And it ends up being like a barter system of exchanges for trying to find other opportunities for your colleagues and your network.
It's funny. I always keep track of all the outreach emails my clients get, and it's never going to go away. There's not an uptick, but there's certainly not any less than it used to be. Mm-hmm. But the best one that I've ever seen was like a marketing director for like the law firm in-house, and they straight up were just like, let's just exchange links because it helps with SEO. That was it. Like, that's all they said.
And you're like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, he's just like, listen, I'm going to cut to the chase. Like, no content. I'll link to you. You link to me. It works. Let's do it. They were from New York. They're just like,
hey, sometimes you just got to ask. That's the difference, right?
And did you?
I don't really advise those things about my clients. I'm just like, it's outreach. It's for SEO purposes. We can do other ways of getting you links. And
all right. So I got a question. I don't know if you're gonna have an answer to it. You might not. So as the old kind of cool strategy that everyone did with like with scholarships, that's kind of, it might still work to some degree now. It doesn't work like it used to when it first did. Do you have any strategy like that you think is working today, or like that you think will work? It's like something cutting edge.
Podcasting.
So have you guys heard of this thing called a podcast?
What's a pod? Because I know what casting is.
Yeah. So a podcast.
I've actually tested doing like citations on like podcast episodes to see if you get a boost from it. And because once your podcast is like syndicated, it's on like hundreds and hundreds of websites that you've never even thought about ever clicking to listen to a podcast.
Sure.
And that description shows up everywhere, right? So like I was like, hey, maybe if I just like put the nap in there for an episode, we have someone on, we'll see a lift from it. I didn't see any lift at all, actually. So Google must like just know at this point. It's like a PR web like push, like they just know. But I do have one other question that I ask all my guests, and you really don't have to answer this one if you're uncomfortable with it.
Okay.
We like to see, because like Ryan and I have had so many like crazy experiences doing SEO at some point with clients or in-house or whatever. Do you have just like a really like crazy, like it could be like terrible experience or just like something just failed like miserably? I think the first episode Ryan and I ever did was like all of our failed SEO projects that we did.
It was 5 hours long.
It's done pretty well.
No, I don't know how it was long.
We had a lot to mention. But do you have anything like that you can talk about?
I do. You guys ever heard of what happens when you migrate a website and are not 100% prepared?
Oh, yeah, I can think of a lot.
That was my first job, was migrating from just hard-coded sites into Drupal.
So the very first website that I ever migrated, they were looking to change the domain completely. And like, all right, well, we want to still pass up all the backlinks and all that stuff. And we got a 301 everything. And I'm like, yeah, we have to 301 everything. And, I read up on Google to try and make sure that I did everything right. And we migrated the website. And, Google took its time to index the new domain because I didn't ahead of time try and just index the new domain with like a single landing page or anything like that. And so it took Google a while to find the new website and then put everything to the right place. Like traffic dropped like 30% for a month. That was fun.
That's bad. Yeah, that's a rough one, man.
So no shame. It was, everything bounced back. We learned from it. But I guess these things happen sometimes. It sucks when it happens. But yeah.
That's probably, it sounds at least maybe it would have been better than migrating the website over successfully and then doing a new like re-optimization website and having a junior SEO be like, well, the URLs need more different keywords or they need to be re-optimized, and then just changing words of absolutely every page.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I'm not saying that's happened, but I'm sure it does happen.
They're like, hey, let's go to the M.dot now for let's do that.
Oh gosh.
That's happened. All right, I'll tell you, 'cause you'll appreciate this being the legal space. Like, I think Ryan and I can talk about this because it happened a long time ago. So this is pretty terrifying. So we were like, finding old websites and bringing them back to life that like used to exist for like law firms. And we found one for a law firm out in California. and we would go to the Wayback Machine and see what it looked like before, and throw up the same content.
Yep.
And put some links on it, and we would always register with like a random email we created and just like fake information, and we were I think I forget what it was. We had to like approve something on there. It was like a plugin or something like that. And we checked into the email and we saw this like long email from the person that used to that had the firm in LA. They're like, why is my business law firm up again? Like what is going on? And we looked at the guy up, and he was like a big time like state attorney, like prosecutor in California. And we were just like, oh my God. So we just deleted it. We just got rid of it like right away. We like never looked at it again. But like that guy was like really pissed, and he was really looking into like what was happening to his like old business.
I had that happen too in Florida. The lady, but I actually used my own like info, and she like called me, and she was just like, what's going on? Can I have my domain back? And I was like, I guess. I was like, it's not that important. And then I just like kind of just gave it to her, because I'm just like, it's not like a high DA. I was just kind of using it just to do some stuff.
I mean, nothing we're doing is illegal, right?
No, it wasn't even branded. I mean, it was like, how you have law firms where it's like the person's name, law firm, or their full name. This was like their initials, law, and it's like that doesn't mean anything.
We just put his website back up with his logo and everything. That's all.
Well, that one was like a pure like putting back up. I think that mine was like do like a
you're just using the domain
2016 theme with random blogs, and there was no comparison.
Anyways, all right. Well, thanks so much for being on, Andy. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Why would they want to find me?
Like physically, like online.
Please don't.
Coordinates.
Okay. So I'm pretty easy to find, at least on the internet. I'm not like Where's Waldo or nothing. Andy Cabasso is me on Twitter. On Facebook, on LinkedIn, I'm Andrew Cabasso because it's more professional. I also have a Facebook group called Grow Together SEO that's all about link building and digital PR and outreach and just digital marketing in general. And my company's website is postaga.com.
Well, Andy, thank you so much for being on. And I just want to say thank you to all of our listeners out there. We really appreciate you, and we hope you got something great out of this podcast today. Be sure to like, share, subscribe anywhere that you listen to this podcast, but particularly on Apple, because that's what we care about the most. That's what makes the money. Just kidding. We don't make any money off this podcast at all. But we do it for the likes. And if you want to be on the podcast, or you have a question that you want to ask Ryan or I, you can contact us at seosaidandotherlies@gmail.com. Or you can leave us a comment on our YouTube page. We respond to those pretty quickly, and we love to hear from our guests. So much for listening. I'm Paul Warren.
And I'm Ryan Klein.
This has been another episode of SEO's Dead and Other Lies.
Goodbye.
Bye.